Well, good morning and welcome to the trade setup right here on BloombergQuint Live. I'm Niraj Shah, and yeah, it doesn't look like it'll be a great day of trade from a bull's perspective, but there will be enhanced volatility. There are a bunch of earnings, and therefore, stock-specific movement is not ruled out. Now, first, let's dwell upon the world because it's a Thursday, which is the expiry day after the Fed meets. So lots to talk about. First, the US markets, and this chart shows you how terrible a day all the US indices had, not just the three benchmarks, which is Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ, but S&P 500, Dow, NASDAQ Composite, NASDAQ 100, the broader end of the spectrum. Almost everything in the US markets fell in trade yesterday. Now, what's happened? I mean, 3 or 4 key things that everybody should be keeping an eye out for. US Fed left the rates unchanged. In fact, the Fed almost did everything that the markets would have wanted. They've not used the taper word at all. They've said we are far away from tapering. They've in fact said that the inflation worries are, I mean, it's just a little too soon to worry about inflation as well. So they've kind of done everything that the equity markets would have wanted. However, the US markets fell. Asian stocks fell. And the US stocks have extended the losses in after hours trading as the earnings from the big tech have disappointed. So all of those things don't augur well. And keep in mind that the dollar has jumped the most since September and that the dollar index too has inched up. So all of these things don't augur well for our market. As a result of which, Asia and SGX Nifty both are trading lower. You can pull up any of the screens, frankly, just pull up one and that is enough. Down about 1% for most of the Asian indices. And if you look at SGX Nifty, I think it was down about 100 points the last time I checked, which was about an hour, 45 minutes ago or thereabouts. And then, I mean, I haven't looked at it again, but yeah, down about 100 points. So it doesn't surprise really what the SGX Nifty is doing as well. We are now looking at supports closer to 13,500 for the 200-day moving average, keep in mind. But there are a few levels that I want to bring to the notice of our viewers. And these are a few key points that all of us should be watching out for from a trading perspective. So the Sensex is about 700 points away from its 50-day moving average, 46,703. 13,707 is the 50 DMA for the Nifty. Keep in mind, the 200 DMA is about 13,500, which is the more important one, but immediately 13,707 is the 50-day moving average. Stocks like Reliance, BPCL, NTPC are below all their key moving averages, not just the 50, but the 100, the 200 DMA. BPCL just closed a shade below the 200 moving average. So all of these stocks are well and truly below the key moving averages. The dollar index has inched up and India VIX is near 3-month highs. The last time I saw India VIX at these levels was once in the month of December, yes, or January. But I mean, that was a flash move. And then around November 2nd or 3rd, just before the rally started. So it was in the fag end of October that the India VIX was at these levels as well. It was up about 5% yesterday, keep in mind. So there are some key levels that all of us need to be watched out for. Yes, I don't want to scare anybody. And I mentioned in the trade setup day before yesterday that I believed, and I probably still believe, that if the correction were to continue for a couple of days, then our bounce back is not ruled out, frankly, because I don't see too much of greed around the street. Almost everybody is fearful. But you have to take cognizance of the fact that today is the expiry day and we have the budget on Monday. And ahead of the budget, because of fears around multiple things, maybe, just maybe, there may not be too many long trades. However, like I said, it's looking volatile at the very least in the day ahead. A bunch of earnings today. On the index, it's only Maruti Suzuki. So not too much on the index front, but the non-Nifty names, a clutch of names out there, all of which are important. Aegis Logistics, and it's, well, amongst the names which is set to get a lion's share of the LNG imports because it's the one with the only terminal. So important to watch out for. Colgate-Palmolive, and the volume growth numbers there always bring about some movement. So watch out for that one. All of us will be watching out for Laurus Labs and Granules because of the API story, as well as Pidilite after what they did the last quarter. It will be very, very interesting to see. And TVS Motors, whether the commentary from TVS Motors is tepid or is it strong, because everybody seems to be turning marginally bearish on the two-wheeler space. So let's wait and watch how this shapes up. Amongst the stocks to watch in the session today, well, I've combined brokerage views for most of the names in order to give you the correct perspective. HUL, firstly, of course, everybody knows about the numbers. I'll read them out, though there was some sequential improvement in Q3 with the organic sales up 7%, but operating margins were lower, impacted by higher OPEX and ad spends, and the management has indicated an improvement in consumer demand. But MK's note on HUL was interesting, and I bring that out for you. They say that the earnings performance has been weak and lagging most peers for the third consecutive quarter, because the EPS growth is about 6% and 2% for Q3 and 9 months. They have cut the estimates by about 2% but they retain the hold with the revised target price of 2300, which is rolling forward to March 23 EPS in order to justify this. So clearly shows it's a strong stock. On every cut, it bounces back because it's just got a remarkable history and remarkable ROCE, etc. Growth numbers have looked a bit tepid. Let's wait and watch. Axis Bank and CLSA, by the way, has had a very big beat on Axis Bank. They believe that the stock can rise about 50-60%, but I'm bringing out the Motilal Oswal note. That seemed to me the most interesting one. They've said that there are weak earnings with PAT impacted by lower income and higher OPEX, while provisions remain elevated in their minds. The retail disbursements were strong QOQ according to Motilal, and they say that they've provided for a reasonable bunch of restructuring provisions, and they do not intend to provide any fresh restructuring approvals, which Motilal seems to be liking. They increased their FY22 and FY23 earnings by 21% and 10%, and they maintained the buy rating. Now, viewers, just wanting to tell you, since I brought up the subject of CLSA on Axis Bank, they are saying, of course, that it's a big beat and they expect a big re-rating. They've increased the target price to 1,000. It's about a 58% upside according to them, because they believe that on the asset quality, with the slippages being so low and the restructuring being just 0.4% of loans, Axis Bank remains a favored bet for them. Let's wait and watch how it shapes up. Some stocks which are below the 50-day moving average for 5 or more sessions. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is a lot of technical experts say that don't look at a stock when it's dipped below once a key moving average. It needs to stay below a key moving average for it to having a bearish undertone. So these are the stocks that have stayed below the 50-day moving average for 5 or more sessions. Nestle, Kotak Bank, Shree Cement, and Divi's Laboratories. Can you imagine a stock which is arguably looking very, very robust from an earnings perspective, has stayed below the 50-day moving average? And if the big daddy of APIs is looking weak, let's see what happens to Granules as well as Laurus as they come out with the numbers today. PVR, it's an interesting QIP launch. They've launched it yesterday, the QIP. The floor price is at about a premium to Wednesday's closing price, but they've said that they'll decide the price depending on how it shapes up. So how the demand shapes up. So let's wait and watch what happens to PVR in the session. Of course, I will watch out for ICICI Pru as well as Nippon Life AMC, both of which came out with numbers and have written down. Yeah, I think tepid quarter for ICICI Pru, and for Nippon Life, they've kept on losing market share, and therefore difficult to figure what kind of optimism comes in. Nippon Life numbers were okay, but market share has remained consistently weak. Let's wait and watch how both of these shape up. So, viewers, net, it promises to be a day which is going to start off in the red and maybe choppy, but it's also the expiry, and I think for the month we've turned negative. If we dip another few percentage points, it'll be the worst start to the calendar year since 2011. So that tells you how badly we've performed in the month of January. Let's wait and watch. It's expiry day. Fun and games could happen. Maybe there could be some covering towards the latter half of trade for specific names as well. Keep an eye out for Reliance Industries too. And last but not the least, I'm also dipping into the frenzy of GameStop by showing you the volume picture. I'm not deducing anything. I'm not trying to make any comments. I don't know about this as much as a lot of you do maybe. But what I do know about is what the terminal has given me, a chart which shows the volumes of GameStop. And this is in particular reference to, of course, Tuesday's volumes, but the Wednesday volumes are up there too. And as you can see, Tuesday, the volumes of GameStop exceeded the volumes of combined FANG stocks and topped the Dow Jones volumes too. Of course, yesterday the FANG stocks came back, and I reckon in tomorrow's session too, or in tonight's session too, because of the earnings, etc., the volumes on the FANG stocks will be more. But this shows you how interesting a world we have out there. I'm not referring to whether GameStop is undervalued or overvalued. I have no expertise there, but I'm merely showing you the volumes and the trading pattern on that one stock vis-a-vis 5 of the biggest heavyweights on the Nasdaq. Well, viewers, thanks for tuning in to the trade setup today. Hope you have a good day ahead. Please trade safe. Watch out for any kind of bounce back possibilities in the latter half today or maybe tomorrow. But the start promises to be tepid.